when you're protected that way, then you're no longer adhesion by these constructs of, you got to go to jail for this, you got to go to jail for that, I'm going to take your children because I don't like the way your hair looks, those types of things. You fall into a category of human beings because African Americans are not human beings, they are chattel property. They are chattel, and when you do the long yard study and find out where the African American came from, Jesse Jackson, you should have never come up with that term in 1986. Because that's what the white man wanted to take place, because he's been trying to create an immigrant out of the Negro since he got here.
But we're
now that he's an African American, he's just like a French American, a Mexican American, a Chinese American. He's an immigrant now. While he was a Negro, he was that dark thing that was running around before that. And in law, he had rights as a Negro. But now those rights as a Negro are gone. Because Negro has been removed from law.
So, okay, Negro's been removed from law. Indian's been removed from law. What can I identify as that will give me no longer chattel property status, but gives me status?
If you bring forth that birth certificate that says colored on it, whether it's your birth certificate, your mother's birth certificate, or your grandmother's birth certificate, your grandfather's, your uncle's, your great uncle, if it says colored and he's colored, then you're colored. If it says colored, Congress ruled last year that colored is American Indian.
So we need to go back and look at our ancestors, your mamas. So if we go down to, let's say, here, the South Expo. What is that expo called?
You go down to the Bureau of Vital Statistics
and go get birth certificates.
And ask for your birth certificate. Those birth certificates are being changed to African American. Every last one of them are being changed.
But how?
Because they control their system.
But you can't just change my birth certificate.
Girl,
why not?
I can't right now. I'm busy.
This is real life.
I created the birth certificate, so I can change anything in any construct that I've created. I can change.
617-282-0062. Like my soul, my cells aren't feeling right now because we had Sabir Bey in the building and he was talking about status and he was talking about what it meant when you check those boxes and what you identify as, and then once you identify as this thing, you're now labeled as this thing. You can't go back and say, hold on, but no. I don't want to be an African American anymore. I want to be something else. Nah, you've been identifying as African American this whole time, so that's what you is.
The federal government is also allowing individuals, allowing their staff. If an individual comes in and they check the box and it says this, and the agent happens to look at you and feel and believe that you're not what you say in the box, they're allowed to change the box. They are allowed to change the box. The protections comes from individuals like yourself, that
you gotta go sit down.
Come to NAAIP.
I keep saying that.
We help to move you forward in restructuring your existence under trust. Because what we do with you, we assist you in developing from your tribal heritage, from your ancestral heritage, a trust charter. See, the United States exists under a trust charter. All of its people exist under that trust charter. All of its agencies exist under that trust charter. So when you, as an Aborigine, being from the original lines, establish a trust charter and a ratification and the Constitution, you've created a government.
Okay, but pause. Because I'm confused and I'm conflicted because on one hand, I believe that as an African American, I no longer have rights. They're changing the birth certificates, so it's not like I can just go down there and say, I want my birth certificate, and now it still says colored on it. It used to. It got ripped up, I moved it, I can't find it anymore. Now it says African American. So I can't exactly prove that because systems are changing. It's their system.
You're in trouble. And that's the fate of millions and millions of Negro in this country. They're in trouble and they don't even know that they're in trouble.
Let's say, for instance, my grandmother, I'm calling Nana as soon as we get off here. Shantora, get your mother's birth certificate and do what you gotta do. Let's say, for instance, my great-grandmother's birth birth certificate says colored, but her death certificate says African American.
You're changing the website. If it says colored, then you come running to us, and we're going to satisfy that colored birth certificate.
Since they changed it, okay, the birth certificate says colored. The death certificate says African American. At what point, what rights do I have to say, you done changed my, you can't change who I am?
The grandmother is, this one came first, chicken or the egg. The birth came first, and the birth was acknowledged before their conscious mind decided they wanted to start changing things. My mother's birth certificate says colored. My father says colored. Mine says Negro. My great-grandmother says Indian. My great-grandfather says Choctaw. So how did Choctaw and Chickasaw and the Shawnee come and be me, a Negro? Ultimately, they tried to classify my children as African-American, but I refused the birth certificate.
How do you refuse a birth certificate? Isn't that that's my account number? That's my chattel property, right? That's my...
The only way that you can refuse a birth certificate is that you must not be a U.S. citizen.
Do I have to pay taxes as a U.S. citizen?
It depends on the classification of citizen. There's a different classification of citizen. There's a small C citizen, a big C citizen. There's a foreign national citizen. Most Indians exist as foreign nationals. And the tax classification, it depends on how your business is set up and how your operations are set up. For Aborigines, there's no taxation because we operate under international...
No representation.
We operate under international venue, 100%. The trust is established under the Hague Trust Convention. And from the trust,
sorry for the background noise. I'm making copies of these forms. Y'all might want to look up House Resolution. I think it's
you're a foreign national. And as a foreign national, according to the Constitution,
194.
you have all the rights as all of the citizens in this country.
So as an African American right now, I have no rights.
You have no rights.
Alright, as an African
American, you have no rights.
I'm a Trinidadian American.
You have more rights than an African.
What?
You heard it correct.
I was born in Trinidad. I came to America. I have more rights than the people who were born here.
Yes, because you have a place called home. The African American has no home. He thinks he's from Africa. It's a mental construct.
You make me want to cry.
Because he thinks he's from Africa, he has no home.
You make me want to cry right now.
And because he has no home, then he's snatched up by whoever can snatch him up. The police, the state, any of the agencies can snatch you up, and you are their property. That's why they can hold you and do those things, because you are a construct.
This is sorry. I'm looking for something.
While Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill rarely see eye to eye, they did agree on one thing recently. Derogatory terms must be removed from federal law. Up until Friday, 2 acts and a section of the U.S. Code that deals with public health and welfare used the terms Oriental and Negro. They were written in the 1970s. Both the House and Senate unanimously passed a bill that replaces those terms with Asian American and African American. President Barack Obama signed the bill into law Friday. The law also replaces the terms American Indian, Eskimo, Aleut, and Spanish-speaking individual of Spanish descent with Native American, Alaska Native, and Hispanic, and adds Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander.
Indigenous people in America are not allowed to be recognized as who they are, but instead are forced to accept.
And this is for educational purposes only, and I'm using it under the Fair Use Act. Educational purposes only under the Fair Use Act.
Methods of paper genocide, misclassification, and forced U.S. citizenship assimilated as African American, and other false identities. In 2015, when we attended our first session, we were not allowed to make a statement. So this year we brought NAACP members from 12 different historical tribes from Northeast America, as well as tribal leaders from Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic to help in making a visual statement. It is unfortunate that we must attend this forum to visually show and say to the world, we, the dark Aborigine of America, are still here. I am Enoch Sheila, Director General for the National Association for the Advancement of Indigenous People, located in Northeast Indian Country, America. NAACP is a United Nations registered IPO. It was established by recognized and unrecognized Aborigine and Native Americans, along with signatories foreign and domestic. I'm thankful for this opportunity, Uncle Chair. On the topic of Indigenous peoples' agenda addressing the first 6 steps, as I'm calling them, Indigenous peoples must be recognized by colonizing societies as members of the human family. And the process of recognition must come from the top of societal leadership. In the United States, Indigenous people, American Aborigines, are not even allowed the basic right to identity and are labeled as commercial constructs, subjects, property. So the answer to today's topic of steps is the same for the questions which have been asked over by this convening body. The statement is the same. Before we can begin to speak about the process or a process to address these steps for Indigenous people, we must, as World Indigenous Aborigine people, along with the United Nations countries, demand the United States reform policies of misidentification, apartheid, and environmental racism against the Indigenous people of America. NAACP 2015 accomplishments and intent for 2016 through 2017
just want y'all to see
and assist individuals who are part of reclaiming their tribal cultural identity, implementing sustainable development platforms, while actively assisting members in
this is the House resolution
and remedies in many areas of their existence, including land claims,
194,
and protection of tribal children from covert adoption and placement outside the indigenous community. Last week, NAACP registered 16 delegates, all of whom stood on this floor, awaiting an opportunity to demand justice. And the ears of justice ignored their presence. So today, I, Tuska, standing there, Sheila, speak in their stead.
How you doing?
The people who joined me last week but are absent today were blood